with her neck. She had precancerous thyroid cells.
I was completely debilitated.
Yes, we can write the medication, but if we do not address the base of what is causing it, it will not address the problem.
I radically changed my diet, giving my body the sustenance and nutrients and nurturing that it needs to heal itself, because the human body can heal itself internally.
There was not even a doubt in my mind that she wouldn't be well.
The universe put me here with everything that I need to take care of myself. All I have to do is find out what it is and access it.
Welcome to The Incurables. I'm Don Wildman. Andrea Beeman is tough and smart. Some might tell you she's too smart for her own good. As a teacher, Andrea dedicates her career to helping people improve their lives. But she hasn't always followed her own advice. Cancer runs in Andrea's family, so she's seen the devastation it can cause. But even that experience wasn't always enough to convince her to take the steps necessary to keep cancer at bay. That is, until Andrea was given the choice: change her ways or face the deadly consequences.
I grew up in Queens, New York, with 3 older brothers and a little sister, and I was a tomboy. I loved growing up as a tomboy. You know, it actually gave me a little more freedom. It made me a little stronger, you know, where I wasn't such a pushover, which I think really helped me as I grew up. Because my mom was working 2 jobs, and my dad was working 2 jobs and going to school. We had all kinds of junk food you could imagine.
When you're young, your parents watch out for you. Over time, that started to diminish. Kind of like you raid the refrigerator. You eat whatever you want.
So we were eating pretty junky. I started to eat all of this non-fat, low-fat diet food, you know, diet pills. I was taking tons of diet pills. My weight was fluctuating, my skin was a wreck, I was bloated, I was unhealthy, I was always sick. And I know when I look back now that all of the food that I was eating had no nutrition. It was nutritionally deficient. It was, you know, it was lacking good quality fats. It was lacking all of the things that my body needed to thrive. I had no fuel in the system. And my system said, you know what? You're not feeding me, I'm shutting down.
Andrea's frequent illness was troublesome, but the family was about to face a much more serious health ordeal. Andrea's mom developed breast cancer.
She had gone in and had a radical mastectomy. This was back in the 80s, where they literally took off almost all of the lymph nodes were taken out from the arm, the entire breast, all the way down to the bottom of the rib cage. I saw what I can only describe as what I see in horror movies. It was really a shock to see that, but you know, my mom was alive, and that was the only thing that mattered. And then there was this 5-year period where they said, you know, everybody said it, all the doctors said it. If she gets beyond 5 years, she's cancer-free. So 11 years later, she faints in the bathroom. We didn't know what was wrong. The breast cancer had now spread to all of her organs, lungs, brain, liver, bones. It was everywhere. And they want to attack it again. They want to attack it radically. You know, so we're going through chemotherapy every week, taking her for chemotherapy and radiation.
That did her in. After that, it was just exhaustion and just not getting out of bed.
It was like there was a war being waged on her body.
Andrea's mom was losing her battle with the disease. The radiation and chemotherapy were taking their toll as well, and she dropped nearly 70 pounds over a period of months.
I remember one day we were getting her dressed in the mirror. She was going to come to my college graduation, and you know, I wrap a scarf around her head because she didn't have any hair. And she looked at herself in the mirror, and she saw this frail human being, you know, just like a skeleton almost, with just skin hanging off her bones, and no hair, no eyebrows. And she said, and she goes, I look like a Holocaust victim. And she did.
Despite all of the suffering Andrea's mom endured, the standard treatments were not working. The cancer continued to advance. Andrea's father did some research and came across a doctor who seemed to have success treating cancer patients with a macrobiotic diet.
You know, we wanted to try anything because chemotherapy and radiation weren't working. They were just killing her. We could see that clearly. So we went up to the Xuschi Institute in Massachusetts and we learned about a macrobiotic diet. It was all fresh food and whole grains and beans and vegetables and sea vegetables, you know, all this food that we didn't grow up eating.
We had to learn a new style of cooking, get all new pots and pans even to make the food. Shopping every day for fresh vegetables, brown rice, like tempeh and tofu, all these foods that I would say we're not used to.
Within a few days, my mom had more color in her face. You know, she started to get some rosiness in her cheeks, and her lips, which were pale and gray, were now starting to turn pink again. And within my own body, I felt it. You know, like I'd grown up, like I said, crazy dieting, so my bowel system was so messed up. By the second day that I was there, I was on a regular, I'd get up in the morning and go. That experience was really, it set in my mind, you know, like a little switch turned on for me that said, you know what, if I ever get sick, I'm gonna try food first. When my mom was at the end of her life, she was in and out of consciousness a little bit, and she said to me, she said, Ann, I want a sarsaparilla. And I'm like, a sarsaparilla? What the heck is a sarsaparilla? I didn't even know. I mean, I know it's a root beer now, but you know, I was like, what's that, sarsaparilla? And she's like, you know, it's a root beer. I want a root beer soda. Can you get me a root beer soda? And I'm like, no, I'm not getting you a root beer soda because the root beer soda is gonna kill you, you know? And, you know, 3 days later, she died. You know, I had all of this dogma in my mind, and I was angry at her because she wasn't getting well. You know, it wasn't happening the way the book said. And, you know, little did I know that 3 days later she was going to die, and that was the last thing that she was going to ask me for. You know, I would have gone into the ground and dug up the sarsaparilla root myself, and I would have put tons of sugar in it. Just gave it to her.
Andrea Beeman had grown up in poor health. She adopted a macrobiotic diet to support her mother, who was using food to help fight her cancer. But now that her mom was gone, Andrea didn't see the point.
After my mom died, Andrea didn't really take on the lifestyle of healing. She went into another direction, and her lifestyle didn't really change much in terms of nutrition. She was still, you know, on the go eating junk. You know, maybe she would just be concerned about her weight.
I was 24 years old, and I wanted to go out and party and drink until the cows came home. One day I went to my doctor because I was sore throats again, you know, like everything, just not feeling good, always sick. And my doctor took a blood test, and it showed on my blood test that my thyroid was out of whack.
What doctors discovered was that Andrea had developed autoimmune thyroiditis. Her body's immune system was literally destroying her thyroid gland. The condition can lead to hyperthyroidism. Her doctor recommended a standard treatment.
And the doctor said, okay, well, you need to take possibly radioactive iodine and then Synthroid for the rest of your life. And, you know, I heard radiation, and I'm like, I'm not taking radioactive anything.
Typically, patients with hyperthyroidism are given radioactive iodine to combat the disease. However, as a result, the thyroid gland is effectively destroyed, transforming the disease into hypothyroidism, where the thyroid stops producing hormones. There had to be a better way, and Andrea believed she knew what it was.
The rebel in me said, you're telling me that I can't cure myself? I said, I think my diet is really crappy. That's what I think. And I think I need to change it. And the doctor said to me, your diet has nothing to do with your thyroid. And I said, okay. I said, I get that, but you know, I'm not dying right now, so let me change my diet and I'll come back to you in a couple months. So the doctor said, you know, it's not gonna make a difference, but yeah, go ahead, you know, you do what you have to do. I radically changed my diet and started to do brown rice, beans, grains, vegetables, sea vegetables, fish, you know, I mean, took out all the crap. I mean, really went back to what I learned in the Kushi Institute, like this.
Andrea wanted to find out everything she could about the macrobiotic diet. So she traveled to a macrobiotic seminar and met with macrobiotic pioneer Michio Kushi.
He kind of looked at me, he looked at my face, and he looked at my eyes, and he looked at my skin, and he said to me, it was the most bizarre thing in the world. He said, frozen dairy, too much, take it out. And I'm like, oh my God, I eat frozen yogurt for dinner, I eat it for lunch, you know, I was like, frozen dairy. I'm like, how the heck do you get frozen dairy? Just by looking at me, not even taking a blood test. He says, if you don't change your diet, within 5 years, you'll have full-blown breast cancer in both your breasts. And I was like, you know what? He's right.
And when she heard that, when Andrea heard that, bells started ringing. This is very similar to what happened to my mother, so she made the changes right then. That's when I started to see a change with her.
She was so shocked and inspired by how powerful this was. She was just like, I'd go up to her desk and she'd be like, you wouldn't even believe what is happening to me. She'd talk about her bowel movement, she'd talk about like all this stuff that maybe that's what made people uncomfortable because like people don't usually talk about that, but she was like screaming it from the rooftops because she was watching it happen.
Within the first 4 months of changing my diet, I lost about 20 pounds. My skin cleared up, my eyes looked good, my hair looked good. You know, it was an amazing transformation.
She wasn't one of those people who all of a sudden is trying to preach to you, like I found a healthier way, now you should find a healthier way, but you found yourself asking her questions, like how did you do that, or what should I do? I have this thing, what do you think?
Every 4 months or 6 months, I would go back to the doctor, and I changed doctors every time because every doctor would give me another disease that I had. You know, now I had this disease, now I had that disease. So no matter what the doctors were telling me, I just kept moving forward. You know, I didn't buy it.
Andrea decided she would do what was necessary to commit to the diet. As the months ticked by, she felt better and better.
It took me 2 years for my thyroid to become normal. 2 years. I'm not going to say that healing happened overnight because it didn't. It just needed the proper amount of nutrition. 2 years of nutrition as opposed to 28 years of non-nutritional food that I put in. After I healed myself, you know, this desire to teach just kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger. You know, and I told my family and I told my friends and they said, oh, you should become a doctor. Oh, you should become a nutritionist. Oh, you should do this. But none of that was calling to me.
Over the next several months, Andrea continued to hear a call to share her story. So finally, she left her successful position at a television network to teach cooking.
It was a crazy thing. She went from a really secure job where there were so many perks, so many benefits, to working with not a setup of clients yet. She just had an idea of what she was going to start, and no insurance, no tools to do this, except for what she had in her head and her heart. And she just manifested this entire thing.
I quit and I had faith in myself and what I'm doing and what I'm teaching, and it's just growing and growing and growing every day. I was helping people, helping myself and helping people at the same time.
Andrea's decision to focus on teaching people to live healthier was paying off. Her classes grew steadily, and she was really enjoying the work. As her business evolved, she stopped paying as much attention to her own well-being, and Andrea could hardly afford to fall back into the same dangerous patterns of her youth.
I interviewed for a show called Top Chef, and one of the requirements was, if I got accepted, which I did, that I would have to get a full physical. And I hadn't been to a doctor in like 8 years or something like that, so I was like, I don't even have a doctor. So I found a doctor downtown, and I went for my full physical.
She was my first patient in the morning, and she was with this piece of paper shaking, shivering. Dr. Gulati, I need a medical clearance, and I am here to see you because you are one of those doctors who does natural medicine and medication. She was really grounded in her health and as to how the body can naturally do it just with foods.
You know, and I told her the whole story, and she said, oh, okay, well, let's wait till your bloods come back. I came back, you know, for my blood work, and she said, yeah, your blood's normal, your thyroid's normal. And I'm like, great.
With her medical clearance in hand, Andrea flew across the country to San Francisco to tape episodes for the Top Chef television series.
I met Andrea after she had filmed Top Chef. Right when I met her, when we really became friends, that's when it was about to air. So then we would get invited to parties, and they were always shoving drinks in your face at the parties, and there was always like real crap food.
And then in this past January, you know, still all this Top Chef stuff going on, I had to end a relationship that for about 10 years. And for months and months, just crying, eating more sugar, eating lots of caffeine, and my immune system started crashing again and again and again, until finally, in April, I was completely debilitated. I had a 3-day fever, and I completely lost my voice. I hadn't lost my voice in years. And I had to do a cooking video in about 4 days.
Of course, she didn't follow her own advice, which is did not take the supplements, did not take the nutrition the way it should be, was eating wrong.
I went back to the doctor, and she's like, oh gosh, you know, it sounds like you have like some kind of weird flu, you know, let's take your bloods, let's take a whole round of tests and see what happens.
This time, her cholesterol was high, her triglycerides were high, her glucose was high, and her calcium was low.
Andrea was prescribed an antibiotic to address her viruses. To regain her voice, Dr. Gulati gave Andrea a steroid spray for her throat. But these treatments were merely temporary.
I took the antibiotic, the 1 round of the antibiotic, and I took the steroid, and my voice started to come back. And I went back the following week to get my test results. And the doctor said, okay, your thyroid disease is back. You have Epstein-Barr virus. You have this, that, the other thing. You know, I was loaded with every virus you could imagine. She said, okay, you have to take medication. I said, I've healed this before, and I'll heal it again. She goes, you're older now. You know, your hormones are lower now. Just take the medication. And I understand her perspective. I said, but you know what? I healed this before, I'll heal it again. I just need time. I said, I'm gonna do the video. You know, I'll take the antibiotic, which I did, and the steroid, and fine, I'll do the video. I said, I have a month, 1 month, until I had to teach a class at the Open Center called How to Reclaim the Health of Your Thyroid.
Andrea Beeman was diagnosed with a potentially dangerous thyroid condition for the 2nd time in her life. She felt she knew the steps necessary to address the problem, but it didn't lessen the blow.
First of all, when I got out of the doctor's office and I found out that I had hypothyroidism again, I was so sad. Oh my God. I called up my sister and I'm like, Erica, I'm like, my life is over. I'm ruined.
She was down in the dumps, basically saying, you know, what should I do? And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. You heal people all the time. You help people heal themselves. You've been helping me for years. How can you say, what should I do?
So I call up my friend Donna, and I'm like, Donna, I got hypothyroidism again. I'm so upset. And Donna goes, this is great. Now you can heal yourself again and teach your clients and students. And I'm like, look at all these Pollyannas that I created.
There was not even a doubt in my mind that she wouldn't be well.
I go back to the sea vegetables, whole foods, vegetables, fish, lean animal proteins, you know, like beans. I mean, everything that I really had been neglecting. And every single day I'd have my miso salmon soup for breakfast in the morning. Instead of going back to the doctor, because I don't have health insurance, I went to the Enzo Clinical Laboratory, the blood laboratory around the corner, and I asked for a full thyroid panel. 4 days before my class, I go for the blood test around the corner, and I'm waiting the 24 hours to get the results, and I'm like, I can't sleep, you know, I'm like, oh my God, if I'm not healed, I can't teach the class. I call up the nurse, and I'm like, I need to have my, my results for my thyroid panel. And she's, all right, hold on, let me get it, and then we'll talk to the doctor, right? She gets it, and she goes, okay, all your levels are normal. Why did you take a thyroid test? I said, yes, I destroyed it again. I destroyed it once before, and I destroyed it again, and I healed it twice. That was a great experience. It was even better than my first healing of the thyroid disease, because it was like I had much more knowledge, and I applied every single thing that I knew and every single thing that I learned to healing the thyroid, to this last healing. And it took 30 days, where the first time took 2 years.
Andrea is so thankful that the macrobiotic diet healed her for a second time, she has no intention of giving it up, and her desire to show people how to heal their own bodies has only increased.
She has a gift for teaching. I mean, I think she's like, that's why God put her on this planet, to teach and help people get healthy. And something really remarkable happens when she's on the stage. She makes people feel okay about wherever they're at.
I like to teach people how to cook because they're going to learn something. They're going to learn how to take care of themselves. And I think it's so important because we're so removed from the food supply that people get back in touch with food, back in touch with how to actually nourish themselves, because that's how healing can happen.
She was always in the teaching spirit. She was my big sister. I'm her kid sister. So I could tell you she was a great big sister. She was in that mode of helping people.
I don't claim to be a healer. I've only healed myself and have given people guidance to heal themselves because that's empowering.
Andrea Beeman works hard to empower people to take responsibility for their health. She's effective in delivering her message because she experienced just how dangerous it can be when you don't pay attention to your body and its nutritional needs.